And I don't
My
know if you want to like say anything more about it, but you didn't actually say what that phone call was about.
maybe it's just I hate telling that part of the story. So it's like, let's just skip it. The Love You Miss You Bye podcast. Let's inspire each other. I hear my stepdad on there going, Christy, you need to pick up. It's an emergency. So that's when I picked up the phone, completely lost it. I think on your end, what was happening that day for you on your side?
So it's June 5th of 1999, and I am graduating from law school that day, getting ready to leave the house, and a van pulls up and delivers flowers from Christy. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she remembered.
Uh-huh.
This is amazing. You know, we were literally just leaving to go to graduation. Bring the flowers inside, run out, we go off to graduation. And then after graduation, I was going down the shore with a couple of girlfriends. And so we went all back to go home, go change, freshen up, whatever. And as I was getting ready, you called me. So this is late afternoon, not quite evening. And then like the world stopped. One of the happiest days of my life turned into one of, if not the worst day of your life.
It forever connected us again in that moment where your life changes, and it's true, because whenever you go through something tragic in your life, you have who you are before it happens, and then you have who you are after it happens. And they're completely two different people. I apparently repressed everything for a very, very long period of time. And I didn't really deal with it because I wasn't, my body couldn't. Like my mind and my heart could not allow me to take in that much pain at once. So it was a protecting shield that happened. So it was just a tiny bit at a time that I could deal with.
And I don't know if you want to like say anything more about it, but you didn't actually say what that phone call was about.
Maybe it's just I hate telling that part of the story. So it's like, let's just skip it. My mother had fallen down the stairs and she hurt her back. My mom was diagnosed with bipolar several years before that. So she was on medication and it was kind of new to her body. She was still adjusting to everything and trying to find the right dosages. And so she fell down the stairs. Her doctor went on vacation. So she called in and said that she had hurt herself. And so a fill-in temporary doctor prescribed her medicine. I'm not going to name what it is, but prescribed her medicine, which ended up stopping her heart, and she died. My stepdad had come home from working at the shoe store. They had a shoe store. And he came home and saw her sitting straight up on the couch like she was asleep. But then he looked down and he noticed the coloring in her legs were blue. So he knew that there was a problem. Still didn't quite digest what was happening and tried to resuscitate her and get her going. But it was determined that she did not take too much of anything. But the combination of the drugs stopped her heart. And a lot of people will ask, well, why didn't you sue? Why didn't you go for it? And honestly, I asked my stepdad that question. I said, why aren't we doing anything about this? And he really wasn't in the state of mind to deal with it in the proper way. And he said to me, he's like, because do you really want to go in front of a judge and a jury and sit here and they'll pick your mother apart from head to toe and show why they're not at fault? And I didn't want to do that, and so that's the reason that we didn't move any further with it. But it changed my life forever. It was absolutely devastating. And honestly, I feel like I haven't really dealt with it until since I've been podcasting, which is really crazy because I have been forced to kind of talk about it when I say forced, it's my own doing, but been forced to talk about emotions and the things that have come up and how it connects to her. And just the discussion of talking about old things in your life that you forget, that you put them away. And since I've been doing that, my emotions have been a lot more at the surface in in the last year. Like I see a commercial and I get emotional, and it's because I'm breaking down those walls that I have put up for all those years, and now my emotions are at really up here, and I'm able to kind of feel again fully. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's good or bad, honestly,
It's
because
good. It's
I
good.
cry easily now. Look, I just cried like 10 minutes
Oh,
ago.
well, we've also never talked about it in this way and in this forum, but I see a self love, that you did not really appreciate and have for most of your adult life up until then. I see a freedom, an independence. Even though you've always been fiercely independent, you were always in these really not healthy relationships that forced you to be like independent and basically a single mom in these relationships. When you had somebody, you were always worried about somebody else. You did not have the space, time, or energy for yourself, and nor did you value yourself high enough to do those things. So I really see sort of the pivotal moment of your journey, let's call it the journey to healing, was when you finally ended number three.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I feel now today a newfound freedom. I feel a self-love. I constantly stumble. I constantly doubt myself. I'm second guessing myself. I still go through those cringy things where I'm like, that's awful, all the time, like I have
Mhm.
daily. But I'm able to kind of go, it's okay. It's okay. Because it really comes down to my worry of what people think of me. That's what stopped me this whole time, is the worry of what everybody else thinks of me and how I'm
Right,
going to look stupid. What has she got?
right.
That's the stuff that stopped me in the past, And it's
Yeah.
like, and I recorded an episode, and it's already probably out by the time this airs, but one of the things, I need to get a tissue, good Lord. One of the things that it says is, one of the things that I talk about is just the fact that I'm not afraid anymore. Like I'm
Hmm.
going to do it. I've got 30 years to make something happen here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I've always been amazed at your ability to bounce back, right? And your resilience and all that you've been able to accomplish despite the various odds, right? Stacked against you. And on the flip side, I was always one that just was like, I'm just going to stay in this little comfort zone because it feels safe and happy and warm, even though not so, not in my personal life necessarily, but certainly in my professional life. I was never willing to take huge chances. And I just, I certainly didn't do things by the book, and I always did it sort of my own way and my own path. But once I got into law firm life and, sort of the expectations that go along with that, I was afraid to make any kind of change, despite the fact that I was not happy and had not been happy for many years in private practice. And so I was always amazed by your willingness to kind of jump and go and try new things and not be afraid. But even with that, you were more in a survivor mindset and a survival mode. A lot of those decisions you made, a lot of those jumps you made, they were made with no fear in my mind, when I would look at it, but they were also necessary. You had to go and do this because
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't until these last 5 years, I would say, that you really have found yourself and found your way and really like you're doing this for you. You're meant to do this, and everything that you're seeking and doing now is, I think, a culmination of everything you've sort of been through. But now I see your resilience and everything that you're doing as like a product of you focusing on yourself and doing all this work and really growing and really finding this amazing person that you've always been, but you had to kind of like push her way down for a really long time.
Yeah. It's true. There is a path to self-love. And not every maybe some people are born with it. I don't know what that's like,
I
but
don't know.
I wasn't. I know the only thing that fueled me as a child and moving through that was my mom's love. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? So it's like almost my mom is what got me through till she died. It was her,
Yeah.
wasn't me.
Yeah.
And then once she died, I was lost. I was absolutely lost. And because I didn't have the love that she had for me at that point.
Yeah.
And so it took me all these years to realize all along I had it in myself. And she was trying to tell me that,
Yeah.
and kind of be in my little wheelchair through all those
Yeah.
years. Like, hey, we got this. We got this. And then when she left, I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk,
Yeah. Because
and
she truly loved you unconditionally,
mhm,
and was like your biggest cheerleader and your biggest supporter. And you know I felt that from her. You know what I mean? It was like just being around the two of you, I could feel that, from her. And I think, you really didn't. I just don't think anybody else in your mind could ever love you as much as your mom, and also you could never love yourself as much.
mhm.
And
Yeah. And I think
yeah.
that that's part of it. It's maybe some of the reason that my relationships have failed, because how can you ever match that kind of love? And maybe I was looking for that in somewhere else, in some other person, to match that, because I it was empty
Yeah.
until I ended my last relationship and realized, not right away, it took about a year of not
Hmm.
being in a relationship, which is the longest I had not been in a relationship my entire
I
life, since
know.
13.
I know.
13. So I was like, okay, well, this isn't so bad. This is all right. I wasn't fully on board yet. I wasn't
Yeah.
fully on board. But then as the years passed, I started to really like love it. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying I don't want a relationship again. I'm just saying I found myself in those 7 years. I really, really, really did. And when you
Yeah.
find yourself, you want other people that maybe are lost to find themselves with you, because it's really gratifying to
Yeah.
know that you don't have to depend on external things to get you through your day. You have yourself, and nobody is going to love you more than yourself. Even my mom is
Exactly.
not going to love me more than myself at this point. And that's
Exactly.
big.
Exactly.
That's big.
So my parents were at your wedding, and of course, Steve. And it was at your wedding that Steve asked my father if he could marry
Did
me.
I know that? I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. He saw me coming down with you and was just like, okay, what am I waiting for? What am I doing? Yeah. So you guys got married in what, July of 2001?
Right before 9/11.
And then we got married the following April. And by then, you were pregnant with Hannah. So you were pregnant
Mhm.
with Hannah at our wedding. But it's so weirdly connected, though, right? How all that kind of transpired.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing. He
I
saw you and he's
know.
like, I can so picture her walking down the aisle now. It's
Exactly.
visual now.
Your mother in law, you did my alterations, and the last fitting before my wedding, I was at her house, and she, I got into my dress and everything, and we're making last minute adjustments, and I hated it. I hated my wedding dress. I was like, oh my God, what was I thinking? Why did I buy this dress? Why did I think I would look good in this dress? Oh my God. And I was totally freaking out, but she didn't know because I didn't say anything. I took the dress because it was now time to take it from her, get in the car, and I completely lose it. Completely lose it. I hate my dress. How am I going to wear this dress? I have no idea what happened, but like
Did you
on my
change
last
anything?
no, no, it was fine. It was fine. Once I was
But
all
you have
dressed,
those moments.
oh God,
You have
yeah,
those
I was
moments.
like who am I thinking I'm going to pull this dress off?
It was a mini
Yeah,
panic
totally.
attack.
And nobody was there
that
because I was there with your mother-in-law by myself, going like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Yeah,
yeah, you were absolutely gorgeous. And but it also that triggered another memory. We went to get our hair done and you had an absolute meltdown over your hair. And I'm like, Lori, you look stunning. And you're like, I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I was like, I'm just telling you, you look absolutely stunning. And you look back on those pictures now and think, you look
oh,
stunning,
it's so
don't you?
pretty. Yeah, yeah, so
Gorgeous.
pretty. Yeah, and
Gorgeous.
I was afraid of all that makeup. I was afraid of having all that makeup on. I was like, oh my God, I never wear like this much makeup. Yeah, but it was fine.
Mm-hmm. My mother-in-law was she's from Italy, so straight off the boat. And my ex was first generation American, so she is a seamstress. Like she was working with Vera Wang at Saks Fifth Avenue, and so she was able to get the dress and create from scratch my wedding dress. They have it somewhere. I wanted to give it to Hannah at some point. I've never gotten half the stuff that people gave me were in their attic because it was in Jersey, and I never got any of it. I think some of it went to him and his next wife. Honestly,
Oh, geez.
whatever.
Oh my God.
No, I'm not even lying. I'm not even lying. So it is what it is. Whatever. The groomsmen were so much fun. They were just singing Frank Sinatra, and they were just so. Italians are so fun. The one thing that I do remember about my wedding, and it wasn't my ex at all. It was I sang "Letting Go" at my wedding. And it was because when I first moved from New Jersey, when you go through that, your child leaves home scenario, and it's hard for a parent right now, empty nesters, that they're all going through it. And I will be going through it again in 3 years. And she sent me that CD. And then years later, I recorded that song and also sang Letting Go. I need to probably get it from my dad. But anyway, I sang Letting Go for my mom, and I danced with my stepdad. And it was a really, really good moment for us. It was, and then my Nana, who's my mom's mom, was there, and she got to see it. So my Nana's crying, and yeah, it was a very emotional point in the wedding.
But one of the hardest moments, I think, in our, last 20 years, maybe, was when you decided you were going to get married again. I just broke down to tears and said, I can't do it. I can't watch you make this decision. But then you didn't get married, and you put it off. And then all of a sudden you did get married, and you just went off and did it. And that was months later. So it was like you knew in your heart,
Heck yeah. You know these things, and you ignore them because it's easier to do that. I put it off many times in my head. I would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It was so, like, honestly, out of everything and every relationship I've been in, that one was the most volatile. That one was the most explosive.
Yeah.
That one has the most meat in it. Honestly, I'm not going to cover it here because it deserves its own
episode.
It does, because it covers a lot of things that I need to be ready to talk about, and I need to be able to do it in such a careful way because of my child that it just has to be done properly. But I will say that it was the most traumatic relationship that I've ever been in. I got lost so much in that relationship. I was with him for 10 years. So I
Mm-hmm.
got lost. I lost myself completely in that relationship. It's a dark, dark time. But I can tell you that even though I've said all that, he's the one that I loved the hardest and the
Hmm.
deepest out of all my relationships. And that's the crazier part. And I think that's what made me hold on for so long, is because I just loved him. But he gave me the baby of my family. I
Yeah,
still
of
love
course.
him,
Of course.
with all of my heart. I just didn't know his struggles were so much deeper than mine.
Yeah. Well, and I think he was the one that was the most broken,
Mm-hmm.
and you really thought you could fix him. He was broken
Mm-hmm.
when you found him, he was broken when you left him. In the process, you lost yourself completely. I mean, if there was ever a time that I was legit worried, like really, really worried about you, it was during those years, for sure. For
And that's
sure.
because I hid from you, like,
Yep.
completely.
And then when you would surface, it was so superficial at times. Our conversations, our topics, it was like you did not want to let anybody in to that world. I don't know. I kind of feel like you made yourself very invisible during that time
Mm-hmm.
to everybody.
Yeah, I did, because when I would talk about him, it was embarrassing. I was embarrassed that I would allow myself to be a part of that. You
Yeah.
know, what was there for me to talk about that would be positive in any way, shape, or form, except for my kids?
Trevor. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it. But that's not what you were asking. You would
Yeah.
ask about them, but you wanted to know what's really going. You wanted real stuff. You wanted
Yeah.
to know you said it was superficial. You were looking for the real stuff. What's happening in your life? And
Yeah.
I wasn't going to tell you. I
Right.
wasn't going to tell you. There were times that I did open it up and tell you, you know. But for me, it was like facing reality when I would talk to you,
Yeah.
a reality I really didn't want to know. And as soon
Yeah.
as I spoke the words, it became that much more real. And I already knew what you were going to say. There wasn't really anything you could say to me that would have changed the situation. It had to be something that came from me.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
but I remember those times where you'd be like, "You're hiding. What's going on?" You'd leave a message. You're hiding. What's happening?
So it was kind of like I got to see all the way from the beginning all the way to the end and kind of what, you know, unraveled in between. Those were some really scary, for me, thinking about you, those were some really scary times.
I was worried about myself, but honestly, that's where I really got my survivor wings, so to speak. I really became a survivor for those 10 years. I had to get weak to become strong in that time frame, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. I went into ninja mode. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? To get him out. Ninja mode. Like, I realized in that moment, I'm kind of still proud of that whole plan, that whole getaway plan. Like,
Yeah.
that's impressive, Lori. Come on.
I know.
Did this,
I
did
know.
that. I mean,
I know.
ticket the
I
next
know.
day. Like, I had it down. I had it down. And so I can't wait to share that story. But
I know. I was just gonna
yeah,
say that'll be an interesting story.
it's going to be an
Um,
interesting story, because that's where you see why I want to help people so bad. And
yeah.
that is a part of it. It's like I was too busy fixing these broken men in my life, thinking I could help them, that I was breaking because of it. And here I am. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so now I can't fix the men in my life. I refuse to fix the men in my life. They have to come whole and put together. Now I can share those experiences, and maybe somebody that's listening can hear that you can make it through it. You will make it through it. And if you can love yourself at the end of all this, that's really the most important thing. There are people in your life that come for a season, and there are people in your life that come with a reason, and then people that are forever. And you're obviously my forever friend. I had no idea that you were the one that was going to be the constant, or vice versa, but you were.
You're the only one, I mean, besides my sister, right? But you're the only one that's been forever, you know, like you are my forever.
My forever friend.
There's a lot of things we did not cover in this podcast, but there was a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of really ugly, and we're still here.
Yeah, I would say this. I would say we covered a lot of me in this episode. And I, when and if you're ever ready to talk about anything that has happened in your life, I think eventually that could help people. I really, really think it can. So whenever you're ready to do that, I want you to do it with me and here in a safe place, because I'm never going to let anything happen to you. I want to do that with you. I'm a lot more open because this is what I'm doing now. And so
Yeah.
I know that. But I want everyone to know I've been there for Lori too.
Yes.
I've been
100%.
there. I'm just more open with my life. So she has the freedom to talk about whatever she wants in my life. The main reason I thought it would be a great idea to have her as the very first Love You, Miss You, Bye guest is because she actually is completely involved with the name. And everything I do that's associated with podcasting or ideas or any kind of side hustle, I run them by her. And she's got that logical mind. The whole point of this podcast is to inspire. And it took me a while to figure that out. I'm like, I'm not sure. It's a human experience, it's conversations that connect us. But really, it's about inspiring someone to make a move. And if I can inspire someone to love themselves a little bit more than they did yesterday, then I've done something good. And so I had to have Lori on because I was telling her about this and she's like, this is absolutely something you need to do. She backed it from the get-go. Like, yes, this is it. And I couldn't come up with a name. So I'm texting her. I'm like, okay, what do you think about this? And what do you think? What were some of the names we came up with?
Oh my God. We went back and forth for 2 hours, I think. And it was like a little bit of Jersey, a lot of Texas. We got way off track and it was into like, we were all over the place.
All over the place.
Touched on like everything. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm going back and forth and Lori is giving me her all. Like, she is really pumping out these names. I'm like, no, doesn't make no, because it's like when it's like that wedding. And I was telling her, I was like, did you ever say yes to the dress? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, if you did, when the woman says yes to the dress, they cry. It's like, that's the moment, that's your dress. And I'm like, I'm not feeling it. The next day, we probably went back and forth for a week. And the next day she sends me a text. But before I say what that text is, a little backstory is that when my mom was alive, she would say goodbye when we were on the phone and she would say, love you, miss you, bye. Just, it was her thing. I didn't think twice about it then. But then a couple years after that, after she passed away, I didn't really think about it anymore. And Lori randomly said, love you, miss you, bye in a conversation. And it blew my friggin' mind because I hadn't told her that story. I hadn't even thought about that story.
Yeah, so we were getting off the phone off of one of our epic like 2 hour conversations and I was like, okay, I'm like, love you, miss you, bye. And you were like, what did you just say? And I'm like, love you, miss you, bye. And you were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. You started like having like total meltdown and you were like, my mom used to say that at the end of every conversation. And and then of course we started crying and there was a lot of crying involved and and then that just became our thing. And so signing off on everything, signing off on text, signing off on cards, emails, whatever, it was just always love you, miss you, bye. But we started doing it in writing. So it was more to shorten it up a little bit. We started doing LUMUB on one of our Facebook posts or whatever. And people just thought we were like real weirdos.
Strange. Everybody wanted to know though. Did you know that? What is LUMUB? I text her and I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I'm not sure what I want to call this podcast. And she texts back, love you, miss you, bye. I just start crying. And I'm like, that's it. That's the name. And it hit me like a ton of bricks when you said it. It was perfect. It was everything, because I want it to be about strengthening yourself and being a strong person. And my mom was one of those people for me. She gave me that strength when I couldn't give it to myself. You pulled it out at the right time. I mean, your timing's impeccable.
No, I knew it. As soon as I sent it, I'm like, this is it. This is it. Yeah.
I mean, but I cried for 2 days. I don't think you know that. I cried for 2 days, Lori. I told you I'm getting very in touch with my feelings these days.
I know.
And so for 2 days, it's like my whole body, it's very hard to explain, but it's like when everything aligns and then the light happens, it's like I could still get emotional right now. I felt it like with every part of my body, and chills. Like, this is what is supposed to happen in my life.
Yeah.
This is the name. And it's hard if I can't explain it. I can't explain it because there's nothing I have to compare it to. It's just when all of the things in your life come together and form and bloom, that's this for me. That's this for me. And that name sent me into a crying fit for 2 days. Like, anytime I would tell the story, I would start to cry. And I'm like, I know, I'm happy. I'm happy. Trust me, I'm very happy. I just feel so in tune with myself for the first time. And to put that frosting on a cake that was already baked.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was perfect.
It was perfect. I've really appreciated these last 2 years. Very, very much so. Can't live without your friends.
Love you, miss you, bye.
Love You, Miss You, Bye has been brought to you by Christy Chanelle, LLC. But if you're looking for more information or want to follow us on social media, go check out ChristyChanelle.com. All the podcasts are streamed there and the YouTube episodes are there. So why not? You can also listen where all podcasts are streamed. This includes Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And lastly, thank you to you, the one that's listening or watching. I appreciate you so much. Love you, miss you, bye.